Sarah had been raising her son alone for years, working double shifts, keeping her feelings locked deep inside. She got used to the quiet in her Vancouver apartment, but it wasn't the good kind of quiet. It was the empty kind, the kind that comes after a storm when everything looks okay, but doesn't feel okay. So when her son Alex surprised her with 2 plane tickets to the Maldives, she didn't know what to feel. Should she laugh? Should she cry? Should she say no like she always did? Alex had always been thoughtful. He noticed things she thought she was hiding. "Mom, you need this," he said with a smile that tried to lift her tired heart. The second they landed in the Maldives, Sarah felt something change. The air was warm in a way she hadn't felt in years. The ocean was so blue it looked fake, like someone painted it just to remind her of forgotten dreams. The resort sat on clear water that sparkled under the sun, and even though she tried to stay calm, her heart woke up before her mind did. She felt lighter, almost like she stepped out of the heavy version of herself she carried back home. They checked in fast. Alex kept talking about everything they would do: swim, eat good food, walk on the beach. But Sarah found herself distracted by the colors, the sounds, and how different the world felt here. It was like the island wanted her to remember she was still alive. She took a slow breath, let the warm air touch a part of her she forgot was still there. The next morning, the sun came up with a soft glow. Sarah stood on the balcony just to watch it. The ocean went on forever, moving with a calm rhythm that felt comforting. Alex walked out with a big smile. "Mom, today, we're playing a game," he said. He was holding 2 new swimsuits he bought from the resort shop. She raised her eyebrows. Should she be mad he spent money or laugh at how excited he was? "You haven't had fun in so long," he said softly. "Just try it, no rules. We just enjoy the day." Sarah wanted to argue, but something inside her whispered that maybe she did need to let go a little. After all, she hadn't done anything for herself in years. Maybe this was her chance to feel human again, instead of just responsible. As she thought about it, her eyes drifted down to the pier below. A man stood there, tall, with a relaxed way of standing, like the ocean was speaking just to him. He wore a simple white shirt that moved slightly in the breeze. His face looked soft. She recognized something in him, a quiet sadness hiding behind a calm face. Before she knew it, she was staring. He turned. Their eyes met. The moment was quick, but it left something fluttering in her chest. Not attraction, at least not the obvious kind, but a sense of knowing, like he understood something about her without knowing anything at all. She looked away fast, feeling strangely shy. She wasn't used to being noticed anymore. Her life had been about responsibility for so long. She forgot what it felt like to meet someone's eyes and feel something shift. Later, when she went to the beach with Alex, the sun wrapped around her. Warm and gentle. She wore the swimsuit he wanted her to try. Simple, elegant, modest, but different from the clothes she usually picked. She felt nervous at first, but as she walked closer to the water, the sound of the waves calmed her. Her feet touched the warm sand. She realized she forgot how nice simple things could be. The beach wasn't crowded. That made her feel safer. She stood near the water, letting the waves wash over her toes. Alex ran ahead, already excited, calling her to join him. She smiled without meaning to, feeling a rare spark of happiness. Then she heard a voice beside her. Calm, deep, warm. Beautiful day, isn't it? She turned. It was the man from the pier. Up close, he looked even more peaceful. With kind eyes that had a quiet depth. He said his name was Michael Carter, a travel photographer from Boston. He came to the Maldives for a work break, needing space to clear his head after a tough year. Sarah felt her heart soften just a little. She understood the weight of stories people don't tell. Their talk was short, but surprisingly easy. No awkwardness, no pressure, just two strangers sharing the same air, the same sky, the same quiet heaviness they both tried to handle. Alex called for her again. She excused herself politely. Michael smiled and wished her a good day, then walked toward the edge of the pier. As she joined her son, she felt something unexpected, not excitement or fear, something quieter, something gentler. A small movement inside her that whispered she wasn't as closed off as she thought. For the first time in many years, Sarah felt like her story wasn't over. Something new appeared, small, delicate, but real enough to make her heart aware of its own beating. And she didn't know yet that Michael Carter would become the reason her world started to open. Again, the afternoon sun in the Maldives had a warm, golden glow. It made everything seem softer, gentler, almost unreal. Sarah walked beside the water with Alex, trying to stay calm despite the flutter in her chest. She wasn't used to vacations, wasn't used to sunlight touching her skin this freely. And she definitely wasn't used to wearing a swimsuit in public after so many years of hiding behind long sleeves and responsibilities. But her son's excitement made it easier to pretend she was comfortable. Alex ran ahead into the shallow water, laughing like he used to when he was little. Sarah watched him with a soft smile. These moments felt rare. Times when she didn't have to think about bills, work, or the constant pressure of being both mother and father. Today, she let herself breathe. She stepped forward, let the warm waves rise around her ankles. The breeze brushed her shoulders. She closed her eyes for a moment, let the peace sink in. When she opened them, she heard that familiar calm voice. Didn't expect to see you again so soon. She turned. There he was, Michael Carter, the quiet man from the pier. He looked relaxed, the sunlight catching the edge of his smile. He held his camera loosely by his side, the strap wrapped around his wrist. Something about him felt naturally gentle. The kind of person who didn't need many words to be understood. Sarah tried to hide her surprise. Oh, hello again. He glanced at the water, then back at her. Looks like you're enjoying the day. She gave a small laugh, trying. I'm a little out of practice. Michael stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. Vacations can be strange at first. It takes time to let your mind slow down. His voice had a quiet warmth that made her shoulders drop a little, releasing tension she didn't even know she was holding. She didn't usually talk to strangers, especially not men, but there was something safe about him, something familiar. Even though she'd only seen him twice, they stood quietly for a moment. Then Alex splashed water toward them. Mom, come on, he shouted, waving his arms. Sarah shook her head, amused. Michael laughed softly. He seems like a good kid, Michael said. He's the best part of my life, she replied without thinking. Michael nodded. Like he understood something deeper behind her words. I can see that. They talked lightly about the ocean. About how unreal the Maldives felt, about where they were from. Sarah learned he lived in Boston and traveled often for work, capturing landscapes and stories through photos. He didn't talk about himself much, but whenever he did, there was a softness beneath his words, like he carried memories he wasn't ready to share. At one point, he pointed toward the far end of the beach. There is a small gathering tonight. The resort sets up lights and music, nothing loud, just peaceful. If you feel like going, you and your son should join. Sarah hesitated. Her instinct was to say no. Crowds made her nervous, and she wasn't sure she wanted to be seen, especially by someone who seemed to notice her more deeply than she expected. But before she could answer, Alex returned, dripping water everywhere. Double quotes, Mom. Who's this? He asked, curious. This is Michael. He's a photographer, she explained. Michael smiled and introduced himself kindly. Alex liked him right away. Sarah could tell by the way his eyes brightened. Her son had a good sense of people. Always had. Are you coming to the beach party tonight? Alex asked, surprising Sarah. Michael nodded. I'll be there. Alex turned to his mother with a hopeful grin. Then we should go too, right? Sarah felt caught between her natural caution and the gentle encouragement in her son's eyes. She didn't want to disappoint him, and she didn't want to seem closed off in front of Michael. So she said, we'll see. Michael didn't push. He simply nodded. Like He understood everything unspoken between them. Before he walked away, he lifted his camera. Do you mind? Sarah blinked. Take a picture of me? Asterisk, asterisk. He shook his head softly. Of the view behind you. The moment looks nice. She stepped aside quickly. Embarrassed, he laughed a little, not unkindly, and took the shot. Then he thanked her and walked down the beach, leaving a quiet emptiness in the space he had filled. As he disappeared into the distance, Sarah stood there, unsure why her heart felt unsteady. She reminded herself she was just her tired mother on vacation. Not someone who needed to think about the kindness of strangers, not someone who needed to feel anything more than peace. And yet she couldn't ignore the tiny spark that lit inside her when Michael spoke, or the calm she felt when he was near. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Sometimes it takes being far from home to remember parts of ourselves we left behind. Their hands drifted close on the surface of the water. Not touching, but close enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence. It was a quiet moment, full of unspoken things, but free from expectations. When they walked back to the sand, the sunlight drying their skin, Michael paused beside her. Sarah, I didn't expect to meet someone who makes the world feel calm again. Her heart tightened, not painfully, but in a tender way. She didn't know how to respond. She wasn't ready to promise anything, yet she didn't want to push him away either. So she simply breathed in, let the ocean air steady her thoughts. Then she said gently, thank you for being kind to me. Michael smiled, soft and genuine. It's easy, you make it easy. They didn't rush the moment. They didn't create anything dramatic. They simply stood on the warm sand, sharing a quiet connection that felt honest and new. Sarah didn't need to decide anything yet. She just needed to feel present. As Alex ran toward them, laughing and calling her name, Sarah looked at the two people who had unexpectedly changed her days. Her son reminded her of love she already had. Michael reminded her of love she didn't know she could feel again. For the first time in many years, Sarah felt hope, gentle, steady, bright, like sunlight reflecting on calm water. And she realized it wasn't the game her son suggested that changed everything. It was allowing herself to live again.